Alright, refresh in 10 seconds when I come
Like oriented to optimal everything you wanted. Check to see how I'm sitting and
I'm trying to figure it out, man. I'm okay.
it's gonna. This is enough turn or is this too much turn?
I think that's enough turn.
Okay.
Because the other mic is off, right?
What's that, all the others?
Yes.
You want everything is muted.
Great. Yes, please feed yourself.
Well, after I sing, I can.
Sure, it will be there when you're done. Okay, I'm getting Mies.
Final access service.
Could we get an update, please? What's going on?
Nothing is coming up. I was feeling just switch it with the center. Alright. Alright, what's your mic position? Right there now?
I'm good with that.
It's kind of blocking Carlos' face though.
Alright, just reposition it.
It can't work in the shot?
The front face, as in the face,
Is that okay with you?
That's fine for me.
it's not, no, it doesn't pick up like that. It picks up like this.
On the side, okay.
So it will be appropriate. And you want it down, you don't want it a little higher?
Right here, come and say. Right.
So this is what I'm.
So what you're saying is don't fart.
Yes, it's
Don't do
especially
that.
sensitive.
Excellent. Great to know. Got it.
Alright.
Okay,
And
are we live everywhere now?
which camera am I looking to?
Great question. I think they're both. Let's look in between.
In between. Okay.
Okay, we're live on YouTube.
Should I even be on for the start?
Actually, you don't have to, you know. But it's nice. It's a nice little framing. Oh, sorry. Is it here? Yeah. There we go.
Alright, ready?
Bin.
Alright.
justice.
Yeah,
We
that's
do have
that's
that now.
yeah.
Alright, cool. Awesome. Nico, give me a signal before you turn on that mic so that we don't have any movements going on in the background.
Okay. Alright. I'm gonna go now, so Biko, you can tell me if you hear them speaking, alright? I don't need to speak up. Alright, so 3, 2, 1.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Carla Moore and it is my pleasure to be your host today. And today is a very special day because today Jamaicans for Justice, in partnership with the Embassy of Belgium in Jamaica, commemorates the launch of a new gender-based violence support group, and it's called Vines Healing from Violence Together. The space to support survivors of gender-based violence is significant because what it signals is that we understand that there can be no justice without gender justice. And if we are serious about tackling equality, then we have to look at the type of equality that's created by toxic gender roles and the violence that results there. As you may know, Jamaicans for Justice has promoted and supported human rights for Jamaicans for over 20 years. What you may not know is that survivors or victims of gender-based violence can actually access free legal services through Jamaicans for Justice. You can get case support if you need to go in and make a report to the police and you feel like you need a little bit of advice of how to do it, or maybe a little bit of company there. The website has a lot of resources, including templates that you can use if you need to file some type of report. There are explainer videos. Just for me, when I go to the website, what I see is a response that acknowledges the reasons people don't report violence, which is they don't understand the system, or they're intimidated by the system, or they just feel like they can't figure it out on their own. So we have a really great program today that's going to include a few addresses. We're going to hear from some survivors. We're going to hear from some people who work in the response in terms of offering psychological support. We're going to hear from people who offer legal support. And we're also going to launch and explain a video that talks about the Domestic Violence Act, what it is, and what are some of the protections that are offered under it. So some people might think, why is Jamaicans for Justice doing gender-based violence work? And we're going to get a little bit more into that as we go into the program. But one of the things that is important for us to remember is that gender-based violence is quite prevalent in Jamaica. In fact, the 2016 Women's Health Survey says that 27.8% of women have experienced intimate, physical, or sexual violence in their lifetime. We also know that the reporting rates are low and that people are experiencing physical injury as a result of this, so it's kind of urgent that we get this under control. The conversation about violence against men and boys is even more limited than the conversation about violence against women and girls, in part because the same gender roles that create violence against women and girls makes it very difficult for men and boys to come forward, so we know that there's even more work that's needed here. We're going to hear from Moon, who is an interdisciplinary artist and advocate for women's rights, who's going to be doing a performance towards the end of it. So I know that a lot of people are joining us on social media. I know you might be coming to us through Jamaicans for Justice's pages and also the Belgium in Jamaica pages. And I'm asking you to make it really interactive in the chat. Ask us any questions, if there's anything, any more information that you want, if there's any question that you want to pose to our speakers. And also just drop some hearts in the chat to let us know that you support and you stand with the survivors of gender-based violence. Also, for anybody who might be wondering, there's a very small number of us here because we respect and comply with the social distancing protocols. So we're coming to you live from JFJ, but a lot of our speakers will be joining us remotely for the sake of safety. So let's get into the first conversation that we'll be having today. And we will be talking to Roger Malcolm, who is the Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice. Roger, it's so nice to have you here.
Always nice to share space, Carla.
Yeah.
If it's just one person, I'm happy to see.
I love that, thank you. So the first question that I have for you, which I think is a question that a lot of people might have, is why is JFJ now looking to focus on gender-based violence?
Great question.
Yeah.
So, Jamaicans for Justice is just that, Jamaicans for Justice. But justice is a thick, multi-layered concept that affects people in many different ways. And over the course of our work, we choose to prioritize certain things at certain given times. And in our work, we've been recognizing more and more the gap that exists in access to justice services for victims of gender-based violence. That makes the human rights issue, the human rights epidemic that is violence against women, even more severe, where those victims, those persons affected, those people who have survived, and their families face an extra hard time getting justice.
Yeah.
And so JFJ always seeks ways that it can improve access to justice for particular groups, whether they're children, whether they're persons who police have abused, in this case persons who are disproportionately affected by interpersonal violence, domestic violence and sexual violence are women. That doesn't mean that men don't suffer, men also suffer. And I want to be very transparent and clear that we have chosen to target these services to women because of the disproportionate impact. But there is a paucity, a real missing abundance of services for men, and we recognize that. We're trying to do what we know we can do within our programmatic remit. And so last year, June, Jamaicans for Justice launched our justice services for victims of gender-based violence, which provides free legal advice, case support and legal representation. And in addition to the learning that occurred last year when we took this mandate on more fulsomely, Carla, became very clear that access to courts and legal processes is only an incomplete part of access to justice. And so taking justice as a comprehensive concept, we had to start thinking, what are ways that people can be more resilient in order to endure many times an intimidating and traumatic justice process. But also, justice may mean different things for different people. For some persons it may mean getting retribution and getting that man tried in court. For other persons it may be simply being able to leave and have the behavior end. For others it may be unknown and what they need is support figuring out their next options. And so this is the second such support group that Jamaican Justice is experimenting with, and it seeks to assist those women who are pursuing justice in their own ways to have a more complete package of services beyond just our legal services. And we're happy to have been able to do this as a result of learning and as a result of looking at our own gaps and happily being able to support this pilot program that will hopefully become a more sustainable project over time.
Yeah, thanks for that. I like that you raised the element of learning, that the organization itself is learning how to respond to this issue while you're responding to this issue. And it seems as though the conversation does really get stuck at access to court.
Yes.
Whenever we talk about justice, we're like, oh, there's a hang up in the courts, people, they don't know how to navigate it. From your perspective, what is the element of justice that this particular group can address? Like outside of court, what's the other thing that this group can do?
Okay, so I think a big part of the issue is that people don't have agency over their own healing process. I mean, it's straightforward, justice is just a part of healing, it's restoration, and so people don't have agency over their healing process. So they sometimes engage processes that aren't even the justice that they need. For example, knowing what it's like to go to court and have the situation told over and over and over again may change whether or not you try restorative justice or you try to go to court. Being able to have someone support you through that process changes whether or not you stop showing up for court because it's just you and you don't have any social support. Being able to speak about your situation with other persons, maybe the healing that you need in order to live life as normal. You've suffered something traumatic. You're also interested in justice, but you've suffered something traumatic. We would be lying to ourselves to not think that people are complete people. Yeah, people are part of processes, but these people who are pursuing justice are still people living with something traumatic. Worse if you have children, worse if you sit in the house, worse if people don't believe you, worse if you don't have the first step to take the first step. So I would say there are these attendant issues that are all around the justice question, outside of courts, that need to be attended to with something as sensitive as gender-based violence. But in addition, and the unique thing about the support group is that it starts with legal literacy and empowerment.
Right.
So choosing the right course of action for you in your justice process is something that you speak to survivors, and when they abandon processes because they didn't know what to expect, or they weren't prepared. And so we're also interested in, if people are pursuing justice that can work and can be effective and doesn't repeat this narrative of cases falling apart at court and victims not being believable because they weren't prepared. And so the support group seeks to do just that, support. It doesn't solve, it doesn't replace formal processes, it doesn't replace formal therapy and treatment. What it seeks to do is support. And quite frankly, sometimes people just want some more support. That's really just what people need sometimes, some more support. And we're happy in this limited way to add to the offerings in the country. We wish to see way more of these. And this is our little bit to support a more routine part of our work.
That's true. Thank you for that. I love the way that you describe it. It's like your personal, I know, almost like your justice journey, like your journey towards justice and what that looks like for you. So you've mentioned a couple of dates, and it seems like this has been in the pipeline for some time. What makes it possible for us to actually do this today?
Thank you. So what makes it possible, first and foremost, is an amazing team here that's very agile and adaptive and thinking and learning. And we thought of this idea and said, okay, at some point we'll try to do this. And you know, when we first reached out to you, it was with some of our other work. We said, hey, can you try out 2 of these sessions and we'll see if it can be a thing. And then right around the 16 years of activism for violence against women, we were blessed to come in contact with the Embassy of Belgium, who was trying to find a high-impact project that was locally done by an NGO to support in Jamaica. And so we pitched this idea, you know, we've been trying to do a support group. This is something that you'll be able to get behind, and we just thank you to all that exists for the Embassy of Belgium, who stepped forward and said, okay, we'll give you the funds that you need to seed this project. And so we're able to launch something, and it can happen for a few stagings and can see a cycle that we can learn from. Because of the generous donation of that starter funding that the Embassy of Belgium provided. And since then, we've been able to see other projects and how we can pull it together, but sometimes you just need that injection. And that's what this donation provided of US $6,000 from the Embassy. Which will just help this group start. And I want to thank the Embassy of Belgium, Ambassador Hugo particularly, and just the team there for seeing the vision here and saying that they'd be willing to support it. And that's why it's possible. And also because of your expertise that you bring to the table. As I said, I have to big up every time. You know. And so it's possible because you and the team here were able to co-create this. And that's what I liked most about it, that we were able to start it from scratch and vision it the way we want it to, and we can retool it and change it as we go along. And I'm very excited to see where it goes. So thank you to everybody who was involved.
Yeah, really big up to the Embassy of Belgium here on that. Because people, I think we overlook that. I mean, I hate the term it takes cash to care, but it really does. I mean, if you want to get something off the ground and you want to get it moving, it does take funding. So when somebody steps forward with the funding, that we really just have to set hands.
Yeah, you know, in the wellness space, there's a statement like, where attention goes, energy flows. Yeah. And I would say to add to that, and where money flows, results flow. You know, and so it's just part of the whole continuum, and the cash matters. And so we're grateful for that.
We're very grateful for it. All right, thank you so much, Roger, for talking to us today about this, and also thank you for your energy, that for holding space for this and being really intentional about making sure that it happens. Thank you for the work that you do, holding space for people who experience all different types of violations, and always being courageous enough to say the uncomfortable thing that other people don't want to hear, but the thing that needs to be said. I would really appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you.
So that was Roger Malcolm, Executive Director of Jamaica for Justice, talking to us about the VINES Gender-Based Violence Support Group. And Roger mentioned someone really important, and that's actually the next person that we are going to be hearing from. So this support group was made possible by the kind funding of the Belgian Embassy in Jamaica, and we are lucky enough to be able to hear from the ambassador. Is the ambassador ready to talk to us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, beautiful. So we will now hear from Ambassador Hugo Verbiest of the Embassy of Belgium in Kingston. Please talk to us a little bit about this initiative.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, Mr. Malcolm, Executive Director for Jamaicans for Justice, and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity to say a few words this afternoon at this online launch of a gender-based violence support group, which will establish a support group to provide pandemic, with its lockdowns, closed schools, and economic fallout, has not only disproportionately increased the burden for women in general, but also further increased the risk for women and girls to be victims of gender-based violence, especially in the domestic sphere. Executive Director of UN Women even called it a shadow pandemic because of the rapidly increasing reports of gender-based violence worldwide. Impact of violence ranges from immediate to long-term physical, sexual, and mental health consequences for women and girls, including mental illness, depression, and suicide. It has also enormous personal, societal, and economic costs. It is a major obstacle to the fulfillment of women's and girls' human rights and to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Combating all forms of violence against women and girls, and in particular sexual violence, is therefore one of the main objectives within the Belgian policy on gender and development, therefore also a priority for the Embassy of Belgium here. Recently, the Belgian Minister of Development reiterated that Belgium will continue to fight against sexist violence and the impunity of their offenders, especially in this COVID-19 period. Belgium, through the European Union, co-finances the Spotlight Initiative, which unfolds specific programs on a large scale to eliminate all forms of violence against women and children in Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Pacific, and the Caribbean, including in Jamaica. This initiative is showing some encouraging results. For example, globally, the number of survivors of violence looking for support in the countries where the program has been rolled out has risen with 15%. We believe that besides supporting large programs such as the Spotlight Initiative, it is crucial that local organizations that work in the area of gender-based violence direct financial support and assistance too. Both efforts are hereby complementary. Support group for victims of gender-based violence, which will be launched today by Jamaicans for Justice, is a perfect example of a bottom-up initiative that really can have a real impact on the victims of gender-based violence. We are therefore very happy that the financial contribution of the Embassy of Belgium has helped the support group to be set up for this. We are therefore very happy the financial contribution of the Embassy of Belgium has helped the support group to be set up, offering concrete help to victims of gender-based violence. We wish to thank Jamaicans for Justice for their efforts of making a difference in this group. women's and children's lives and for the organization of this online event. And to the victims of gender-based violence, I just wish to say, seek help and reach out when and if you can. And please know that you are not alone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So for those of you who may not know, you were just listening to Ambassador Hugo Verbiest from the Embassy of Belgium in Kingston, talking to us about their very kind donation that's making this support group possible. As we have said before, it's great for us to have conversations about gender-based violence, but if you are in a position where you can contribute to something that's going to have meaningful impact on the lives of persons who have survived violence, then do so. As Jamaicans would say, put your money where your mouth is. So one of the things that happens a lot in the context of gender-based violence is that we will have amazing laws and policies that are around, but people don't understand them, and so they don't know the protection that's offered to them. In Jamaica, people who experience violence actually have a lot of backative, but a lot of times we don't know it because it's coded up in this really strong legal language, and nobody not really going to try to read no law, to try to understand what's happening. So Jamaicans for Justice is here to do that for you. The Domestic Violence Act is not new. It was made operational in 1996. The last amendment was in 2004. The Domestic Violence Act becomes even more significant now as COVID-19 pushes a lot of people back into their home space, and incidents of gender-based violence increase. They increase because people are locked down with their abuser. Previously they could get away to go to work or to get away to go to school. Everything is happening at home now. It's increasing because people are under stress, and when stress rises, incidents of gender-based violence tend to go up. It's increasing because people are unemployed. It's increasing because we have a culture that teaches some men that it's okay for you to take out your frustrations on the women and children around you. And so that's one of the reasons why it's most important for us to have this conversation about the Domestic Violence Act now. And so today we are here to launch our Domestic Violence Act explainer video that's going to take you through the act and what it does.
I want to do something, but the whole thing. Oh no. how many different cut this, but I'll be able to go back to the school and the Facebook. Alright, so let's check it out.
Looks like you're feeling down inside. He says he loves you. him a beat you when it feel like, and it's not right. When you really feel like, oh, if it beat you, then why take your clothes off? Abuse and mistreat you, then later on seduce you. Make him know him not get no loving if I saw them star. And straight when him a take a beat and take a fight war. Yes, too pretty be a waste star. He'll never get to Zion if he break your heart. Cut it off, let it go, start anew. Cut it off, and find someone who love you, girl. Cut it off, like too short. Cut it off, afraid to start over. Cut it off, I saw the healing start. You know it's not right. We'll leave a fuss and fight. You want to cry your eye. It's around one like dog. You know it's not right. It's not the most sight. And there is nothing domestic about it. My girl, I better you love it. Oh, if it beat you, then why take your clothes off? Abuse and mistreat you, then later on seduce you. Make him know him not get no loving if I saw them star. And sure when I take a bit to take a fight war. Yes, too pretty be a waste star. You'll never get to Zion if you break your heart. You got to love yourself before you love someone. If I hurt your flesh in the name of love, no, you got to love yourself before you love someone. If I hurt your flesh in the name of love, no, you can't make it beat you. Then why take your clothes off? Abuse and mistreat you, then later on seduce you. That man just a beat you.
You can go in now and start into Canada.
Abuse and mistreat you.
Introduce the panel and we're going to the panel. Having some issues loading the video.
Welcome back. So we've been talking today about gender-based violence in Jamaica and what are some of the ways that we can respond to this problem that honor that each person who experiences gender-based violence is an individual and who will have their own individual healing and justice-seeking journey. Jamaica's gender-based violence response is not new, it's decades old. We have a lot of partners who have been doing the work on the ground, and without those partners we wouldn't be where we are. A lot of those initiatives are also led by survivors of violence, which is significant because in the case of gender-based violence, there should be nothing for us without us. The next part of our conversation, we are going to be talking to people who have been navigating gender-based violence from different perspectives, from the perspective of civil society, legal, psychological, and also from the perspective of somebody who has survived gender-based violence and moved forward in their life despite it. I would like to introduce you to my panelists who are here. Well, not here in these COVIDian times. People are here, but not really here. It's digital. So with us today, we have Tashima Brown. Tashima Brown is a family liaison officer at E4 Life, a mother of 2 children, and a strong black woman who believes that everyone can be great. She considers herself a lioness by focus on gender-based violence-related matters. And our final panelist is Doreen Young. Doreen Young is a licensed associate clinical psychologist and a Florida board-certified sex therapist who has been practicing for the past 7 years. She works with a number of non-governmental organizations in Jamaica, primarily E4 Life and the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. The population she serves includes, but are not limited to, people living with HIV, gender-based violence survivors, and LGBTQI+ persons. In private practice, she facilitates sessions for clients with a wide range of issues such as depression, anxiety, marital problems, and work-related stress. Doreen uses trauma-informed care to guide her practice and has facilitated training sessions in that area. The final panelist, although we're not going to call you a panelist, is you, because I want to hear your questions in the chat. If there's anything that you want to ask any of our panelists, please be sure to put it in, and I will pass the questions on for you. Panelists, welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay. So the first question that I have is for everybody on the panel, actually. I would love if everybody could tell me a little bit about the specific work that you do with survivors of gender-based violence.
Okay, so I'll start. So, as an associate psychologist, my main role is providing
Hi everyone, I am Nastasia Robinson. I work as a legal officer at Jamaicans for Justice, where I provide legal service and support to victims of gender-based violence. JFJ started this initiative, started this out last year, and so we've been steadily increasing our clientele, trying to reach as many women who are victims and who are suffering from gender-based violence. What our services include is we do quite a number of protection orders, occupation orders, and any other kind of legal or social intervention that might be necessary from clients' work.
Okay, thank you very much. Tashima?
Well, for me, what I do is I am a mentor mom by heart. I was recently promoted to family liaison officer. What I do, I support the young girls. I am that little voice in the back, right? Just cheering them on, telling them, you can do this. You can get through this. Nothing is too hard for you to accomplish and achieve. I'm like their personal cheerleader. Their shoulder to cry on. If a hospital, I'm there. Funeral, I'm there. I'm just about everything to them. I'm just that basic cheerleader for them.
Thank you so much. So Tashima, I actually want to pose the next question to you. You yourself have had a particular journey moving from a survivor to this position that you're in now, where you say, yeah, just kind of everything. If you need support, for go somewhere. If you need somebody to explain something to you, if you need me to go funeral with you, I'm there. Can you tell me a little bit about your own journey to this position that you're in now?
Well, I started off E4 Life in 2012. I became a member of E4 Life. I was going through a lot, really. I was really down, broken, everything. Didn't know how to cope, really, with what I was going through. So I just blocked it out, put it in one part of my head and said, here what? I just all live life to make it, basically. But I learned how to be native, I learned how to talk about what I've been through, the abuse that I faced as a child growing up, and even as an adult, I was in an abusive relationship, and I learned how to talk about my emotions. And the healing process is still ongoing because when you have been through abusive situation, you don't just rock and heal like that, right? It takes time, and over a period of time, I have grown. I've been through various counseling sessions, and they have helped. The family at People Life is wonderful. They want to talk hours and night. They are always there, and they're very supportive. So they are always there supporting you, encouraging you, and you know that just that strength that say yes, I'm not alone in this journey. My life hasn't ended there. I can achieve a lot. So
Thank you very much. Thank you for that, Tashimo. And I'm really glad that you took that journey and you're in this position that you are now, because a lot of people want experience. A lot of people would love some support from somebody who has had a similar experience to them. Doreen, my next question is to you, and it actually picks up on something that Tashima said. She said that being at E for Life, she learned to talk about what she's been through, and she's had a lot of space to just express. From a psychological perspective, is it important that survivors have a space where they can talk about their experiences? Like, where does that fit in terms of their healing journey?
It is actually very important. But first and foremost, a safe space, a safe environment needs to be provided. Not every space is safe, but as Hashima said, it is one of those safe spaces. And Jamaicans for Justice is also one of those safe spaces through the support that we're launching today. So having that safe, non-judgmental space where persons can come and share freely is of utmost importance. And it is also very important to be in a space where survivors are not being told what they should or should not do.
Okay, so it's important when we're holding space for survivors that we allow them to guide us. It sounds like that's what you're saying, that we should allow them to guide us in terms of how they want to move forward?
Yeah, because we should let survivors know that they have a choice. Because at the end of the day, when we think about GBG, it's about power and control. And when a survivor is in that space, then they feel powerless. So providing an environment where they feel empowered enough to know that they do have a choice is very important.
Thank you very much for that. Nas, my next question is to you. So the issue of access to justice, and specifically like going into that courtroom setting, has come up time and time again today. And I know that there are a lot of people who kind of want to shy away from it. What are some of the ways that JFJ supports folks who actually do decide they want to go into court? And what are some of the things that people should be aware of if they make that decision that they want to carry a case to court?
Okay, thanks, Carla. So one of our first approaches to providing redress to any group, but especially victims of violence, is that we have to recognize that as much as we want to take action, it really is the victim's decision at the end of the day, what they ultimately do. You don't want to force a victim, or you don't want to forcefully encourage a victim to pursue a path that they don't want to necessarily pursue. And so, in doing so, we lay the foundation of explaining what the options are, what all the legal and other options are, and what are the different protections, and based on each avenue that is available to you. Now, it is when a victim, a woman or a young girl, decides to go through the whole process, we understand that this might be a very triggering, depending on the kind of matter, might be a very triggering experience. So sometimes what is necessary is a bit of psychosocial intervention along with the legal intervention to create that balance, because the legal process can take a toll on you. It takes time. The way the evidence is sometimes portrayed, defense attorneys are not at all easy on victims, and so those are some of the things that we have to prepare our clients for. We have to remind them that their truth is theirs, and regardless of what the other side is saying, that they need to remain strong as much as that can be the case. When one decides to take legal action, there are several. It will depend on what the issue is. It might be that she was raped, or that she was beaten, or that she was chased out of her house. Whatever the situation is, will determine the direction in which we advise a client that comes to us.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like you're saying that each case is unique, and based on all of the conditions in the case, then that will determine how it is that you advise someone to go forward, but also that someone should be mentally prepared for some of the costs associated with trying to take a case to court, which is something that we've heard time and time again, and it is one of the reasons why this support group exists, because one of the things that people really do need support around is just staying in the court, having people attack your character, having them kind of imply that it's somehow your fault, which can be very triggering for victims or survivors, especially if it is that they've had to hear that time and time again, that, what were you wearing? Why were you there? Did you provoke the man? That type of thing. So Tashima, I'd like to come back to you and ask you a little bit from your perspective and the work that you have done at EVE with other survivors. What are some of the best practices for working with survivors of violence? What are some of the things that EVE and other organizations do that really, really work well?
First, just letting the client know that they have a safe space, right? Has to be a non-judgmental space, right? You have to ensure the client that I am here for you, right? This is what is, and this is how you should do. You are friends to that person will open up and they will tell you what they are really going through, how they plan to move forward, right? Because some of the time, person might say, but them are young people, them not have no dream, them not hold up their head. But yes, they do have dreams, but they don't need the right person behind them to say, I am here.
Yeah.
I am his cheerleader. I believe in me. I believe that you can do this, right? Yeah. Just encourage them on their dreams. Yeah. Because at EVE, they encourage us. They encourage us a lot. They say, reach out for your dream. If it's that when you got abused, you stop going to school, EVE go out there and they do right proposals. Them go out and then beg them money. Then please to get help to assist some persons to go back to school. Right? They try to assist with getting some funds to get small grants for them to start a business, just to make sure that they are trying to reach and assist them in getting to their goals. Right? To make them know that, yes, we are here for you. Life not done this. Your goals and your dreams still can come true. Yeah. Dealing with survivors, you need to make them know, say, well, this is your life. It is not mine, but it is yours. We are just your friend to pat you on the shoulder and give you that strength.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Tashima, I want to stay with you a little bit longer because of something you said. You said, EVE is going to encourage you. EVE is going to tell you to keep reaching for your dreams. How would you say that you have changed since you started receiving support from EVE for Life? How is it changing your life?
Well, it has changed my life a lot because I was once a very quiet person, loved to myself, never talk out, but trust me, I am the most vocal now. I talk out a lot. I don't want to talk. If something not seem right, me will talk. Right? If it's there and in and I say, well, you know that young girl, yeah, I got through something. If I see young persons coming from school, because I have teenage daughter, and I have a stepdaughter who's also a teenager. And if I am coming home and I see teenagers on the side of the road and big man attack today, me I stop right there. And I'm going there and I'm saying, look here, that ram. Send her home. I'm not going to move because down the line, because from business here with a belly, maybe she contract an STI, even HIV from that same big man, and then the big man gone. And all of the burden on she alone, maybe mother throw her out. So when we see it, we have to talk about it, we have to create awareness of it. So, being active and all of the exposure, yes. And I'm now a big mom.
I love that. I love that. I feel like that's kind of the energy that you get from E for Life. Like when you buck up the staff from E for Life, them definitely give you like a slight bull buck and Duppy Conquer vibe. And I love it. Doreen, I'd love to hear from you from a therapeutic perspective. What are some of the approaches that work when you're supporting the healing of survivors of gender-based violence? Doreen, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. I don't know if you heard the question. So I had asked you, from your perspective as a psychologist, what are some of the therapeutic approaches that work well when you're trying to support healing for survivors of gender-based violence?
Unconditional positive regard. All the time, ongoing, always validating, feelings and experiences, as I said earlier, and just this, as I said, just ongoing support. Yeah. I think it was mentioned earlier too that a lot, even through the court system, a lot of our survivors don't have the support. It's like, so, and you hear a question, you hear in our society all the time, you're idiot, you do the man so long and the man beat you and you do all of this and a lot of our survivors lose that sense of self. Yeah. And they feel demotivated and all of those things. So I mean, yes, a lot of what I just said is, it overlaps social support too, but that is a big part of the therapeutic process. So regardless of whatever decision that you make, whatever you think is in your best interest, I am still there with you, regardless. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. Thanks for that. The thing that's coming out a lot that I really appreciate is, I think sometimes when we think of survivors, and actually we think of victims and we think, oh, I need to go and stand in front of them and, protect them and all of that. But what we don't realize is that when we stand up in front of the person and the person can't guide their path in the direction that they're wanting to go into. So standing with somebody is literally standing beside them and saying, no matter what, I'm going to be here, but you chart your own path. So it's come up a little bit, but I'd like to go into it in a little bit more detail. So Nas, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the challenges that you may have experienced or that you have witnessed regarding access to justice for survivors of gender-based violence. What are some of the difficulties that people are having in accessing justice?
Thanks for that, Kyla. Well, like many other entry points to justice, the police is the first, what you say, step, the first encounter in accessing justice. Making reports to police stations, but police either refusing to take statements or they take statements and not follow up,
I'll do.
the police themselves to try to act as mediator between the couple, or between the young girl and whichever elder adult is the perpetrator against her. So one of the major issues we have is actually just getting through the door, which is past the police, on the journey of accessing justice. After we get there, I must say that depending on what court you go to, the court system is very helpful in terms of hearing orders and making orders. The challenge comes though, perhaps after the court hearing, for example, when an order has been granted in favor of the survivor, and then there are breaches of that order, then we encounter the difficulty again with enforcing that judgment or just general enforcement of the order to actually protect the victim or the survivor from the harm that they had complained about. So there are various systematic challenges that we face on the way to accessing justice for gender-based violence, especially if they're coming from low-income communities or from low to mid-educational level. Those things play a significant difference in how a survivor is able to access justice as well. And so what we found is that even we've had victims, way out in the country that we say, all right, this is what you need to do, and send them to do it at the courthouse or wherever it is. And they don't get it done. They can't get it done because there are so many roadblocks, systematic roadblocks that prevent them from doing these things. And so we actually have to go out into the field to make these, to assist with them. Sometimes we have to actually physically go with a victim or a survivor to make complaints at police stations, or we have to direct them to another police station, which they can make the reports just to get a foot into the door in terms of access to justice. So I'd say we encounter with the systematic issues, because once a victim has made up their mind that they want to pursue or they want to access justice, it's we try to guide them through the process as much as possible and to make them as comfortable and understanding of the process as possible. And so what we typically have, yes, we have the issue of some survivors not wanting to take action, not wanting to seek redress because of how afraid they might be of the victim or their particular circumstances. So that also poses challenges. But I find that when we sit down with these young ladies and explain or just talk them through their options, they're more willing to go forward in terms of seeking justice.
Okay, thank you for that, Nas. So I wanted to talk to Doreen next about, from your perspective, as somebody who offers psychological support, what are some of the challenges there that someone might experience in trying to access justice?
Sorry,
what are some of the challenges that your clients or the people that you support experience in trying to access justice, and how does that play out in terms of their psychological health?
Some of the things that come to mind are similar to what Nastasia said. So first thing, the police station. when some persons go, they have difficulty making a report. Some persons actually have instances where they're in a lot of ways blamed for the incident, and that discourages them from actually pursuing any form of justice. And then, I mean, thing too is that when you think about trauma, your first interaction after an incident can determine your help-seeking behavior. So that actually gets in the way of a survivor benefiting from social support. The issue with the court, and sometimes cases are drawn out, and having to repeat the incident over and over can be very traumatizing for clients as well. Very demotivating. It can influence clients still feeling powerless because they're not getting the justice or any form of retribution in a swift way. And sometimes too, because of the lack of safe spaces like shelters or temporary housing for survivors and their children, some persons just don't bother because they fear the outcome if it is that they do seek some form of redress. So yeah.
Thank you very much for that. So Tashima, we are about one question away from wrapping. Before we do, I'd like to ask you, what are some of your hopes for Jamaica's gender-based violence response? What are some of the things that you want to see us doing as we respond and support people who have experienced gender-based violence?
Well, one of the main things is that we want the government to really and fully get involved, because we are there and as an NGO, and the NGOs are there fighting for girls who have faced various forms of abuse, and they can't do it alone. JJ is there, and trust me, they are doing tremendous work, but they can't do it alone. The government needs to step up the skills right now, because at the end of the day, they are saying that there is an exchange of hope. Where is that shelter? Right? We need some information, because COVID is out and persons have to be locked down, and within this time there are a lot of young girls and women who are facing a lot more abuse with this period, right? And they are not getting the help. Where are they going to run to? They have to be staying there, and more lives are going to be lost, right? So they need to step up the skills. Basically, the NGOs, they are doing a tremendous work. I just applaud them because they are fighting for our young girls to get justice as best as possible, right? And for the police, they need they have the training now. They have the training, but they need to get more sensitization around gender-based abuse and how serious it can be in the blink of an eye. Because when a young girl runs to the station and pleads for help, and you are sending them back within the same situation that they are running to you for help, you are sending them back to their death. Maybe 2 years down the line, you see one about they will look on the dead body, and you're going to say, oh my, only if we had given a listening ear to her instead of sending her back home to that abuser. So then we need to sensitize these officers that are here to serve and protect, because trust me, a lot of them are not protecting our girls. Because I have been there, so I know what I'm talking about.
1 minute.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Tashima. And just to close, I'll actually pose the same question to my other two panelists. Doreen, what are your hopes for Jamaica's gender-based violence response? What do you want to see us do?
Like what Tashima said, I think that the government needs to play a bigger role to support survivors of gender-based violence requires funding because holistic support can be very costly. And it is what it is. I heard Carla mention earlier, the importance of resources, financial resources. It is very important. And yes, NGOs are doing. Yeah, sorry. We need to look at the costs on our economy, and I think that when it is that we really understand how complex it is and what it requires, then we can get somewhere. But yeah, I think additional resources is necessary.
Yeah, thanks for that. Nas, same question to you. What are your hopes for our gender-based violence response?
Thanks, Carlo. I think the starting point for me is for us to understand as a country that gender-based violence is not at all a man and woman issue, and that's something I preach every chance I get. It's not a man and woman issue. It is a countrywide issue. It is a national issue. It's a national crisis that we need to pay, that each of us needs to play a role in. It's not about hearing someone screaming their lives out and cackling about it in your house and then I beat her again, and it's a type of thing that I want to see everyone who is aware of gender-based violence or victims or survivors or who are persons who are being abused take action. I want to see our government agencies take action. I want to see our police take gender-based violence serious, even if the same woman is coming to the station 5 times, so one day it's one. Every instance of a complaint, every cry for help should be taken seriously. Every single one. And it should be extended. Yes, some people might be lying, but hear what? It is better to do investigation and find out she's lying rather than say, oh, she lied again, she's going to go back to him. And then what we have 2 days down the road is finding her battered or dead. And so that to me is what I want to see. I want to see more resources being made available for victims of gender-based violence. As Doreen said, it's also a social issue. A lot of women are dependent on their abusers, and so unless they are able to have financial independence, then there's gonna be a continuous issue then not being able to get out of the situation. And so I think what we really need is national response. Everybody needs to take it as their business.
Nastasia, to add to what Nastasia said, I think that in addition to, as part of our national response, there needs to be stiffer consequences for perpetrators. And that is and that is going to be our reflection of. So that's a big part, but the court system too has some work to do so that things can be swift, so that these things can be implemented. But yeah.
Thanks for that. And
enforcement is critical. When a woman can tell you that a protection order has been breached or this man has hit her again, swift action needs to be taken. It's not about carrying him to a station and then let him go again, if he go back to the house to kill her. Swift and intentional action needs to be taken.
Okay. Thank you for that, and thank you to my panelists. So we've been speaking to Tashima Brown, Nastasia Robinson, and Doreen Young about some of their experiences navigating gender-based violence in Jamaica. And this is just a reminder that at JamaicансForJustice.org you can find a lot of resources around gender-based violence for you as an individual and also for an organization. We have come to a beautiful, beautiful part of our program. We will be having a benefit concert from Moon. Now, if you don't, so we will take a break. Okay, so we will take a small break, and then after that, we will have a benefit concert from Moon. So stick and stay, and please remember, put your comments, your feedback, and your feelings in the chat.
Last night I heard the screaming loud.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Carla Moore, and today I'm going to talk to you about domestic violence. Now, it's a rough topic, and we don't really want to talk about it, but plenty of people need the information, so we'll have to talk about it. So quick and fast, I'm going to tell you what is domestic violence. How do Jamaican laws protect the victims of domestic violence? What can you do if you are experiencing domestic violence? And what are we at Jamaicans for Justice doing to support the victims of domestic violence? But before we go too deep into the thing, what is domestic violence? Domestic violence refers to any form of violence that occurs in a domestic setting, usually in a marriage or a cohabitation. It can include intimate partner violence, child abuse, elder abuse, or abuse by any member of the household. So like in Jamaica, when we talk about domestic violence, you hear people have a little talk, them say man and woman business, like them say a man a beat him wife or something like that. That's not 100% accurate. You know, you have a household helper and her official title is domestic worker. Domestic violence is officially any violence that happens in the household. So in one house or where you have people living together. That could mean violence between two people who are in a couple, whether they are married or unmarried. Abuse of a child that's in the household, and it don't really matter who the pitney belong to, you know, whether I'm my pitney or your pitney or the pitney live there and the family member live elsewhere. As long as a child is in the house and they're experiencing violence, that's domestic violence. Also, if there is abuse of like the grandmother, the grandfather, the auntie, the uncle, the cousin, or sometimes two people there but them not live together, them visit them one another to spend time. If violence happens there, that is also considered domestic violence. So what does the law say about domestic violence? The law in Jamaica that deals with domestic violence is called the Domestic Violence Act. And under the Domestic Violence Act, a victim can apply for protection from the court in two ways. One, they can apply for a protection order, or they can apply for an occupation order. So I'm going to talk about the protection order. You know, on TV, you will hear somebody say, I'm going to file for a restraining order. The protection order is kind of like that. It prevents the abuser from coming near to the victim. It means that them can't come where you're there. The occupation order allows the victim to keep living in the household and using the household items, but it excludes the abuser, meaning them can't come at the yard. So I could go in even deeper now. You see the protection order? The protection order will prevent the person from coming to your house, your place of work, your school, your church, anywhere that will affect the victim. But also you can file for it to protect yourself or somebody in your household if the abuser is bothering you. So what we mean when we say them a bother you? Well, we mean them a come at your house and your yard and your church and them a threaten you and them a stress you out. But also them a watch you. Them a lay wait you and the people in your household. Them a call off your phone. Them a cuss you off and them a use abusive language, or them a destroy your property. Them a mash up your things. Them a mash up the things in the house. Them a mash up the things that belong to other people in the house. Then you can get a protection order. Now what a lot of people don't know is this. You don't have to go to the police to get a protection order. You can get it from a court. And when you go to the court, you're going to have to prove one of two things. One, you have to prove that the person has threatened violence or they have been violent to you, or they have caused mental or physical injury to you or somebody in the household, and it's likely that they'll do it again. Or two, you have to prove that under the circumstances, you need the protection order to keep you safe. You see, once you get the order, if they violate it, they can be charged up to $10,000 or they can serve up to 6 months in jail, or both. You see, the protection order, you can think of it as like a little extra packative, because once you have it, the police can arrest the abuser without a warrant if they suspect that they're trying to violate the order, or if they suspect that if they don't arrest them, they're going to try to do you some harm. So that's the protection order. Make we talk about the occupation order now. The court will grant an occupation order if they believe that the abuser is creating risk by being in the home. For instance, if they pose a threat to the victim, or maybe if there's a child in the home who requires a little bit of extra protection. Usually, before granting the occupation order, the court has to notify the people who have an interest in the premises. So that would be like the landlord or the person who owns the premises. They have to come into the court and they have to speak for themselves before the order is granted. Now, all of these orders, you will get them from the court. So you go to your nearest parish court or you go to your nearest family court, and when you get there, this is what you're going to do. You're going to fill out the application and you're going to fill out what is called a written affidavit. Now, the affidavit is just like a document where they make note of everything that is happening in your circumstance. After you fill those out, the court administrator is going to assign you a date and time when you're going to come into court, and then they are going to tell your abuser that you have filled it in, and they are going to give them a copy of the application. Once the date and time come, you go before the judge and everything will be decided. Now, there's one thing I want you to know. You never can get it every time, but sometimes you will be able to get an interim order. If you can convince the judge that things are really bad and any delay at all is going to put you at extreme risk, then it's possible for them to speed it up and give you the protection order or the occupation order faster, and it's possible for them to give it to you without letting your abuser know that you have applied for it. But once you get it, they do have to update the abuser, and if they want to, they can come to court and challenge it. So, domestic violence is everywhere, but you don't have to suffer alone. Jamaicans for Justice is here to support you. On our website, you will find the affidavit, you will find the application form. We can help you to fill it out, we can provide you with legal guidance, and depending on the case, we can even go to court with you. You can find us at our website, jamaicansforjustice.org, or you can come down to 2 Fagan Avenue. We're right by the Grand Spend Gully. Now, the Domestic Violence Act, like anything else, it's not perfect. There are gaps. One of the gaps is it doesn't really give you a clear definition for what domestic violence is. And the protection that it offers to women is not enough. I mean, the fine is $10,000. That's not a lot of money. And it's not really going to stop people from abusing. But it's a start. The other thing is the act is kind of old, and maybe that's the reason that it doesn't include social media and the way that people harass each other online. It also doesn't include sexual violence or mental abuse or financial abuse for a reason for coming in to file for the protection order. But we're here, and anything you want to do, we're here and we're willing to support you. If you reach out, I promise you that we are going to reach back. So come in and talk to us. Greetings and salutations. My name is Carla Moore, and today I'm going to talk to you about domestic. Greetings and salutations, and welcome back to the launch of the Vines Healing from Violence Together Gender-Based Violence Support Group. My name is Carla Moore, and I am your host, and I am so pleased to be here for this particular part of the program because we have a live performance from Moon. If you don't know Moon is I want to make sure I get it right, an interdisciplinary artist, also a really strong voice of advocacy for women's rights. Also my friend, and I think one of the most memorable voices that I have heard in some time. Please drop some hearts in the chat and welcome Moon.
Thank you so much, Carla, and thank you, JFJ, for having me. It is an honor to be here. This is a very important cause. May all mothers know that they are loved, and may all sisters know that they are strong, and may all daughters know that they are worthy, that the circle of women may live on. And may all daughters know that they are beautiful, that the circle of women may live on. May all mothers know that they are loved, and may all sisters know that they are strong, and may all daughters know that they are powerful, that the fire of the that the circle of women may live on, that the circle of women may live on, that the fire of the goddess may burn on. That song is called Circle of Women by Nalini Blossom. Sorry, I'm going to rearrange things a second.
Take out the front mic from it doesn't.
Have you ever listened to your soul? Really tried to discover what it knows. You may be surprised at what you find. Pieces of you buried inside. I know we are all connected, yes, I know we are one. And I remember things that haven't happened yet. I hear what you want to see. The stars couldn't number the ways in which I love you. The stars couldn't number the ways in which I care. So till the sun goes around the moon, I will love you. And when history is hers again, we'll know. Have you ever heard the earth tell her story? Her memory is great, she never forgets. Every sound written in time forever. And if God is the word, you better speak with no regrets. If God is the word, you better ways in which I love you. Said the stars couldn't double the ways in which I care. Until the sun goes around the moon, I will love you. And this story is hers again, we know. This story is hers again, we know. This story is I release all that no longer serves me. I release, I release, I release all that no longer serves me. Oh, I release, I release, I release this pain, I release this shame, oh, I release this guilt in my chest. I release all that no longer serves me. Oh, I release, I These are very emotional songs. I release. That was called I release. I'm sorry, I'm not good at the talking, but the first one was Earth Soul, both of which are originals. Trying to make sure I'm cooking. We all want to be loved, even if we don't say it. Tell me, what do you know of love? I want to know, how can love grow amidst That song was actually inspired by a book that is very relatable to this event. It's called All About Love by Bell Hooks. So if anyone is interested. Walk into the water, let the waves take me, let them wash away my fears, let them wash away the old me. Walk into the water, let the waves drown me, let them drown my fears, let them heal me, heal me. Spent too many years praying to what God up in the sky. You were right below my feet this whole time. You were surrounding me this whole time. So I go to the sea. To see myself. Yes, I'll go to the sea to find my peace, to find my Walk into the water, let the salt make me clean, let it purify my soul, let it burn away the pain in me, the pain in me. Let me be empty. Fill my heart with your light. Let me be empty tonight. Spent too many years praying to a God I couldn't find. You were right before my eyes this whole time. I guess I forgot to look inside. Spent too many years praying to a God I couldn't hear. They didn't tell me of the wind whispering in my ear. They didn't tell me of the sounds they can't hear. So I go to the sea. Yes, I go to the sea. I go to the sea. I go to the sea to see myself, to see
Every time I listen to Moon perform, I have to sit with a bunch of emotions after. I'm happy for you because it's always very cleansing, but I really definitely just have to sit with my feelings after, and I think that's the perfect note to end on. Thank you so much, Moon, for the type of advocacy work that you do, and I think you also do a type of advocacy work where you connect us with ourselves, and I appreciate that. Which brings us to the end of the launch event. We have today launched the Vines Healing from Violence Together Gender-Based Violence Support Group, and as we part, there are a couple of people that I want to thank. I want to thank Ambassador Hugo Verbiest and the Embassy of Belgium in Jamaica, without their support, this entire group would not have been possible. I want to thank our panelists and our performer, and I want to thank our production team who is here making this happen. I want to thank the team at JFJ, especially Neoshe Flowers Smith, who has worked tirelessly and has the bags under her eyes to show it that she takes this seriously. I want to thank you, our audience, via social media, for your love and your support, and for those of you who are actively supporting people who are dealing with violence. Please don't give up, we need you. Remember that Jamaicans for Justice is actively looking to partner. They will be doing legal aid clinics across Jamaica, so if you're interested in having Jamaicans for Justice come to your organization or to your community, please reach out. If you are living with violence right now, or you have experienced violence and you need some support, or you want some access to justice, or you just want some information on what is available to you, please don't reach out. Even though the offices are closed because of COVID-19, justice never ends, and so connect with us virtually at JamaicansForJustice.org. That's JamaicansForJustice.org. All of the contact information that you could need and also resources are available there to you. And remember, as Moon said, sometimes you need to release, but almost every time what we need is some support. Reach out for the support that you need, and if there are people around you, support them in any way that you can. And as always, remember to support yourself. My name is Carla Moore, and it's been my pleasure to launch this event today and to share this time with you. Have a great evening. Violence now is a rough topic, and we don't really want to talk about it, but plenty of people need the information, so we'll have to talk about it. So quick and fast, I'm going to tell you.
Or do a flyer or something without the audio, but just video no We did it!
Yeah!
We did it! That's a wrap!
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, you know what I get to do now? I get to try something.
Don't hold yourself by the word child. I recorded a video last week. After recording the video, I recorded something for women's. Are we still in March? Yes, 2 weeks ago, right? And I'm wearing this.
I want to know live recording tomorrow is going to drop off the equipment from tonight.
I mean, I'm so awkward though.
Just do it early. When your pops called me, both in one, so that's a good sign.
Anything there,
He's making it.
because I'll just be like. And I'm like, I have a recording and I'm like, I don't want anybody to like,
I think about that too, because I'm just like, I was like, you know, I have about 5 girly shirts, and I don't want to put on one of my outdoor shirts because it's raining and laundry and I dry from.
okay. Like, we read on the pants and I'm like, so Carla, what are you going to do? Because I definitely don't see how we are, so what are you going to do? I said, let's put on a different earring. I have 4 earrings in my bag because I'm like, if you ever put the lapel mic, it's like a bang, bang, bang.
Yes, that happened in one of them. I remember one.